What's up, everyone? Welcome back to One of the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back today with another episode of the Fanhome Enterprise D from Eagle Moss. That really is a man. I'm going to leave that one in there because I was about to say that really is a manful. Wow, guys, when you do a lot of recording and you do a lot of recording in one day, you start saying some pretty weird things, and I'm just going to go ahead and leave that in there. Oh, buddy. So here we are. We're quickly getting to stage number 50. And as we get towards, God, I think it's stage 58, I think is when we finish. I could be wrong. Somewhere in the next 10 stages or so, we're going to be finishing up with the top of the saucer section. And I'm really excited for that because it's kind of been the same build over and over and over again. Obviously, if you're following along and you're just doing a stock build, as you're getting into the mid 40s, you're starting to work on the nacelle as you finished working on the Cobra head. So one of the things that I noticed that they do with these builds is that you're going to be kind of working on two phases at once in a lot of ways, especially like for this build. The Falcon's a little bit different and Kit is a little bit different. So I guess I would say I'm going to do a little less generalizing here, but you're kind of working on two things at once. So we're working on the saucer section, right? The top of the saucer, building these style of hull panels, and we were working on the Cobra head. As soon as we finished working on the Cobra head, we started working on the nacelle that we got way back in the introductory issue, way back a year ago. So we're kind of working on two things. Then when we finish up work on the nacelle, we're going to start working on the engineering section, the actual lower part of the engineering section, and then we're going to start working on the underside of the saucer section. So you kind of work in two phases with this. Now, as I said in the last episode, am not going to be doing stock nacelles. I don't like the way they look. I think we can make them look much better. I've got the Todd father, Marvel Phoenix. I've got him basically, I've got his ear when I need help for working on this. But if you follow along with myenterprised.com and you follow his instructions very carefully, you're going to get basically a glorious nacelle, and that's what we're going to be doing. So, as a reminder, any parts that involve for the next couple of episodes, where we're going to be taking all of the parts for the nacelle and putting them together, I'm going to be setting all of those parts aside because as soon as we get all of those parts, then we're going to go ahead and work on doing the complete nacelle mod and finishing up that because I've done one half of that. Next, we need to do all the lighting and sealing it up. So, for today's episode, we're actually going to be not installing just two, but actually three hull panels, as we're going to be finally installing this hull panel that was created during stage 36 13 stages ago, which is kind of crazy to think about. There was a period of time when we were kind of just building whole panel sections as we were waiting to finish up certain things. I can't remember. I think it was like gathering all the parts for the PCB. They had us building some of the parts here. So, that being said, it's time to get building. And in stage 47, we're going to install one panel. And then in stage 48, we're going to go ahead and install two. So, let's go ahead and get on to stage 47. All right, so let's go ahead and get stage 47 opened up. And as a reminder, I've already kind of done some of my work. I've gone through and done my resin, UV resin windows here. And what I've decided to do just going forward is I'm paying attention to where the LEDs are going to be mounting. And those are the windows that I'm going to darken. I'm trying to keep the same number of windows per panel dark as they normally would be, so we're not getting any more or less windows darkened. But let's just say that our model, which is based on the 4-foot shooting model, was shot on a different day. So different windows are on. That's what we're saying. This is my model, and really I don't want hot spots because we wound up getting that a little bit with the microcrystal clear window mod on the Cobra heads. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm paying attention to that going forward. So let's go ahead and get our whole panel out, and here is our resin windows, and then here's what the back of that looks like. And I just chose to not do anything other than the white diffused windows, so we have that. Then let's go ahead and get it out. I get to say it every time, and I do enjoy saying it. Windows that we don't have to use. I do love that. And we also have a bunch of other parts here that we're not going to be using, as really this stage is going to be just assembling this, I'm going to be taking these and some of the screws and calling it good, but we're going to talk about this here in a quick second. So we'll go ahead and set these windows off to the side, which is just glorious. And then all of the parts that we're not going to be using are going to be this piece of clear tape. This goes right behind the larger portion of the chiller grill, and this matches up on the other side. So basically, what Todd had done, Marvel Phoenix on myenterprisedee.com, what he had done for these on his stock build and had diffused these with Tamiya flat white paint back behind there, because these lights are really, really bright, and you want to do as much light diffusion as you possibly can. So I do recommend checking out myenterprisedee.com if you want to do the stock build for the nacelle mod, or not the nacelle mod, but the stock build for the nacelles, and follow along with the stock build as he does a good job of helping you, because you're going to need to still modify these parts if you want to avoid some of that very, very, let's just say, hot spots that could cook a steak. So we're going to go ahead and set these off to the side. I'm going to be storing all of the parts, all of the stock parts for the nacelles, and I will make these available on the forums on Facebook and what have you, for anybody who might need replacement parts at no charge other than shipping. I'm not trying to make any money off this model or anything like that, but I do want to make the parts available as I'm not going to be using them, and I really don't want to store them. So let's go ahead and get our screws out, and we're going to get our BM screws. And now that I have the 3D printer, one of my first builds, and I'll just go ahead and let you guys in, is I'm going to be printing out little cups that have the individual... Oh, this was also my first successful print, by the way, because of course, you guys, I'm going to be printing things that are Star Trek. But what I want to do is print out little cups that have, BM and DM and EM and AP and DP and all that. Like, I want to have all of those little cups designated for it that are not metal, that don't attract these superpower screwdrivers. So that's going to be one of my very first builds. And I'm very excited for that. I will definitely make that STL available once I finally figure out how to do it. I'm figuring out how to do some designs. The printing, however, that's the tough part. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get this off to the side. I always do save these. These are great for using for CA application. Great to have little styrene sheets, or whatever you want to call these. Is this PPE? I'm not sure. But these are great because they don't really react to the CA. So these are great to have. You put a little CA in there, and then you take your little tool. If you use this, like I have a little pin on the end of a pin vise, and this is just craft wire, and then you just put that on there, and then you use that for dipping into your CA to apply it. So that's what we use those for. But really simply, we have this left over. There's really not a whole lot that is in this stage, but the cool thing is I get to bring up the saucer section real quick, and we get to talk a little bit more about the next power mod that I've done. Okay, so here's our saucer section, and we're going to be working on these two panels right here, and then we're going to be putting this panel in place as well. Like I said, we are getting very close to getting this thing fully paneled up, and oh man, I am super excited about that. But as I was just referencing, what I've done is I've installed the next leg of the power mod that I've created, and I just have a couple of 1.25 millimeter JST connectors. We have a female end here, and basically what I've done is I've already purchased, let's see if I can get it on camera here. I've already purchased a 5-volt power source, and I've wired this up to a male end of a JST connector, and this is what we're using. This is live. It is powered up and ready to go, so all I got to do is one of these magical things. Whenever I need to test something these days, all I need to do, if I can do this right, it's like the whole Fry thing when if you guys were watching Futurama back in the day, there's an asteroid heading towards Earth, and all Fry has to do is hit a button, and it will cause the thing to explode. And it's between Fry and him, and Fry and him, and then he misses the button. Oh, that totally is what just happened right there. But all I have to do is plug this bad boy in, and it gets the full 5 volts. These lights are so much brighter than the battery powered lights that you would get. And even with my studio lights on, you can still catch all of those panels lit up really, really well. This makes this look so good. So be looking for in the next coming month or so, because something amazing has happened. And I have to say, because I've been dedicating a lot of time to building this model and the Millennium Falcon, as I've kind of shifted formats a little bit and working on only one scale model at a time, I have actually gotten through all of my stages. I've only got 2 left. Now, the next shipment is likely to arrive, I think, this coming up Saturday, the day after this video is posted. And, so it's likely that, I will have another 4, but that leaves me only 6 stages. And that's like 3 weeks worth of stuff. And I got to wait another month. So I'm starting to run into the familiar thing. So, what I mean by what I just said is that we need to start focusing on some of the mods, as we have some very serious ones coming up. We have the bridge mod, we have the nacelle mod, and we have the central power mod. So we will be talking about that as we go along. Now, let me. I realized that I totally disconnected the wrong leg of that power. So, uh, as I get to recording, I kind of get a little stupid because the entertainer comes out. All right, so let's go ahead and get our next part of the assembly done. And where we're going to start is going to be right here. And what we're going to do is the very typical thing of getting so working in 2 sides. And man, I really, really, really need to get one of those Partwork mats, especially before that one company shuts down. I can't think of the name right now off the top of my head, but I need to get one of those foam mats to protect the models. So we are going to just set this one down in place, just like so, and make sure that it's sitting down. We're going to do a test fit, and it looks good. So while I'm holding that in place, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. And then where'd our LEDs go? Here they are. And before we cinch this into place with our EM screws, and these are the new style EM screws, by the way, we are going to go ahead and slot our LEDs into place. Just right here. There we go. And right here. Don't need to bend up on these or do anything special. Just get them into place. Make sure they're sitting in place, of course. There are no tabs for the model to click into in this row. So you're relying on the flange screws to hold everything in place. So I'm making things very difficult for myself right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm noticing that as I'm struggling to get this put in place. Make sure they're all set up and put in proper place here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to secure this one right at the very top with one of our BM screws. We're going to get that onto our tabletop. Get a few of these out. Going to go into our 3-in-1 oil as a friendly reminder. Always go into 3-in-1 oil because it helps cut into the parts. All right, so we're not going to screw that all the way down, but we are going to get it in place so I can stop fiddling with it. And then we're going to go ahead and get our LEDs slotted into place. Just underneath. And this is a bit of a faff, as our friends over the pond would say, getting these put into place. So do be patient and do be careful. And I think that I'm going to need to loosen this even more than I did. Some of these, like, early on, some of these panels were very easy to put into place. But now, as the model's gotten bigger, more and more difficult. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Put that out of the way. Grab our other LED. Get it slotted into place. There you go. Excellent. Secure that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and run through, and right here, 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 and here, we're going to go ahead and put 5 more BM screws in. right, last screw is going into place. There we go. Excellent. Now we're going to go ahead and use our new EM screws. And we're going to go ahead and put in 4 EM screws. Put that BM back in there. Kind of a gross thing to say, actually, if you think about it. And what they did differently, and it's kind of hard to pick up, but the flange is much smaller. And I may have pointed that out in the last episode, but the flange is a much smaller flange. So it doesn't take up as much space. And Todd, Marvel Phoenix, did confirm that they did do a lot of course correction on this model as they went along, and they do change things and make updates, which is something that's nice to see. Sucks that Eagle Moss went down. Obviously, there was a lot of different issues with that, and if you guys were part of the Eagle Moss family, well, you all know what I'm talking about. But it is nice to know that they did course correct as they were going along, because this model is difficult to build at the best of times. And having parts that aren't working right, not good. All right, last flange screw is put in place. That. As I say that, there we go. Now, we're going to go ahead and plug it in right here on the PCB. And as I've determined, we're going to go ahead and run all of our wires that are coming from this area. The one thing that I do like about this process now is as we're just building the panels, we're putting in the PCBs, as we plugging them into the PCBs as we have enough PCB slots to do that. And so I'll be able to do my cable management as I go along. I will wait to get them properly routed and bundled, but what we're going to be able to do is get them put into place and routed through their spots, and so they stay nice and even, so they don't kind of turn into this tangled web, which I kind of want to do something about this. We will do that later as we finish up all the final little bits. One of the last things I'm going to do is go through and do final tidy of all of our wiring. So let's go ahead and test our new panel, because I can, and I'm a heathen for a good time. So let's go ahead and grab our power, plug it in, and make sure we're all powered up and good. It looks good. Let's go ahead and take a look real fast. If I can do this, I need to kind of get this lead. I just hooked this up just recently. I need to get this lead up through the other side of my desk, but there it is. We got a little bit of a light pin, a light hole pin, which is kind of a light leak pin, which happens. Very easy to take care of that, but that looks great. Let's go ahead and move on to stage 48. All right, so stage 48 sees the return of the other side of that panel from last time. Basically, it's the panel on the other side where I wound up having to snip the end to get it to fit into place. And I've seen Todd, he mentioned in the My Enterprise D article for stage 48 that, let's just put it this way, it is just as difficult as it was on the other side. And And I'm going to just go ahead and do what I did last time and give it a test fit and see if it actually fits in properly. But my fear is that I'm going to go ahead and need to take my nippers and cut off this tab, because that's what I wound up having to do on the other side. So let's go ahead and start with stage 48 by getting our package opened. And we've done some work here. And there's going to be some parts that we're not going to be actually messing with. And we'll go ahead and start with these, and I'm going to be kind of gentle. And these are the reflector pieces for one of the sides of the nacelles. It goes right behind the chiller grills, and I believe we got a similar piece for the other side on one of the last stages. So that's what that is. Otherwise, the rest of this, all fairly stock and simple. We have our whole panel. We have our LED. You can do this, Jordan. Nothing in there is going to get hurt. We have some DM screws, so I'm going to go ahead and slide. We're going to be moving around because we're no longer going to be using EMs today. We're going to be using the DMs instead, which is a slightly bigger of a flange now at this point. There we go. Quite a few of those because we're going to be putting in quite a few whole panels. We have our windows that we're not going to do anything with. Our reflectors, which are kind of different shaped reflectors. And then we have some BM screws. So let's go ahead and get the BM screws out. They're kind of giving us 2 extras, which is interesting, but hey, why not? Take it. So we're going to take that. Get our sharp thing off the desk. Here is our whole panel. And I decided to go ahead and do 2 windows up on the turquoise up there, as you can see. Got our 2, I went ahead and installed our escape pod covers. And then here's where our reflectors are put in place. I'm trying to make it less obvious, but this was fairly similar to what the stock lighting looks like on this panel. So it turned out really good. Here's what that looks like from the back. There we go. And this is panel U108. So what we're going to start with is we're going to go ahead and get our reflector put in place. We're going to grab this funny looking one. And that one's going to go right here. And these reflectors don't really need to make any rhyme, reason, or sense, as they just need to cover up the areas where the windows are going to be. And I actually like the way they've done this. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab LED. We're going to go ahead and get this popped into place. There we are. And then we're going to go ahead and fix this down with 3 DM screws. Let's go ahead and get our DMs out here. What's interesting is on this panel, we're going to have to actually remove some of the screws, as Todd found that there were some issues with the fitment. So I'm going to go into our oil. And what you're going to want to do is kind of get them most of the way seated in place. Get all of your screws put in, then like cinch them down. The LED in this panel does create a bit of a lift, and to avoid cracking it or breaking the LED, you want to take that approach. All right, so now they're all loosely tightened in. I'm going to go ahead and tighten right next to there. And I'm not going to over tighten. Even though we're going into metal, we're also using this as a flange against plastic, so you don't want to break that piece. Okay. Next, we're going to grab the other reflector. We're going to go ahead and pop this one into place. And much like the other side, we're going to have to get our LED in place. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our LED, bend up on it, get it put into place, and then very carefully get the reflector put down. Oh, I missed it. There we go. This is a bit of a tough piece to get in. But once it's in, very much the same. Grab some of your DM screws. We're going to grab 3 of them. Go right next to the LED as close as we can. And the same approach. It does cause a little bit of lifting, and you'll know, like, if you're building along, you will know what I'm talking about. You'll feel it tighten down on one side and lift up on the panel on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that side where it's lifting up, pull it flat, grab the next one, and get it in place. Now I'm going to go through and tighten in order. Not over tightening, but tightening enough. All right, so there we are. And that's what that looks like put in place. What we're going to want to do now is get this moved over. So you want to grab that LED because it's sitting up like that up at the corner of the reflector on the other side. You're going to want to grab that LED and push it down and around using the leads there so that it's not getting in the way of the reflector. Okay, so here we go. Let us see if... Oh boy. Nervous about this one. Okay. let's see if this is going to fit in and be as difficult as the other side. Ah, hey. Now I wasn't paying attention to where I got that put into place. So where am I supposed to where am I supposed to run that wire through? Might need to lift up on that just a little bit. Run that wire down and through. I got that I got it like snapped into place, and I don't want to jinx that. There we go. Oh my god. That was amazing. Now, let's flip it over. My goodness. What we're going to do is I'm going to grab one of my BM screws here, and I'm going to connect it in right there at the very top. I am feeling good about this. I say as the screw just refuses to get in. I'm feeling good about this. Yep. Oh my god, that worked. Yes. I am super happy about that news, my friends. That is excellent news. And it only requires 2 screws at the top to hold it in place. Oh, that's exciting. Exciting news. Okay, let's go ahead and get our wires routed through the channel, just like so. See how that turned out. And I realized that I unplugged the wrong thing there. There we are. And that panel is almost, there we go. Just got to push down on it a little bit in some places. But that panel is gloriously in place. Oh, man. That was nice. I was really worried about that. Okay. Very happy with that outcome. All right. And then that one is going to get plugged into the next port, which is going to be right here. Go ahead and get that one plugged in. Very carefully. Let's go ahead and give it a test. See how that turned out. Definitely going to be routing this up through the other side of the desk. There's our panel put into place, and it went in much nicer than went in Todd's instructions, which makes me happy. Okay, let's go ahead and get our final panel put on for the day. So let's go ahead and get that unplugged. I'll leave that sitting up there like that for now. And where we're going to be working, my friends, is we're going to be coming all the way back around to, where are we? There we are. We're going to be coming back around to this side and installing panel U101. But to do so, we're going to need to do a little bit of modification. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave the saucer section sitting right over here for right now. And what we're going to need to do is bend up on this LED, and then we're going to need to remove this one and remove these 2 DM screws as they wind up getting in the way of the model. So they wind up getting in the way of proper fitment, basically. I went ahead and read through the stages to make sure I knew what was going on. I've been doing that lately, just reading much more ahead, see if there's anything that I'm missing on the build, or if there's any mods that Todd wound up finding out about later on. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that LED out, if I can. There we go. Just lifting up on the panel. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come around to the other side here. Just very carefully grab that and flip it over. Ah. There we are. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay this panel like this, push this up so you guys can see, And then where this needs to wire through is going to go through this spot right here. Get the other LED all the way down. Then once it's all the way down, I'm going to grab my tweezers and I'm going to pull it back up through this other side. Not this other side, but through, there's one of the frame bits that connects the two bits of the superstructure together. You want to pull that up and through here and then reattach without putting the screws in place. So in order to get this up, I had to lift up on the panel just very slightly. Get that put back into place. And there we are. Then what we're going to do, much like in the previous stages, we're going to go ahead and slot this into place, get it clicked in, make sure everything's fitting nice, and it is. We're going to go ahead and get this flipped over, and we're not going to be connecting these or plugging them in yet because it's going to be plugging into the PCB. There are 3 PCBs on this saucer section, and this is going to be plugging into the 3 PCBs. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to fit, and that is totally fine. So we're going to go ahead and secure this into place with 3 BM screws, 1, 2, and 3. So let's go ahead and get the 3 down. Into our oil. Get one of these secured in. There we are. Grab another one. And what I do when I'm holding this, I'm holding it up against the panel gap and the panel edge, like where they meet up. And I want to make sure that they are cinching in place and getting smooth as you pull them up. I'm feeling along the edge, and if there's any issues, then I will take this panel off and readdress. So, here's our last one for the day. Fairly straightforward episode, but we did finish up all of the backlog of parts, and we have marched on. We are getting so close, my friends, to getting our top of the saucer all taken care of. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy powered up. And there we are. And let's see how that turned out today. Obviously, we haven't gotten this last panel lit up because it's going to be part of the 3rd PCB, but oh, my friends. Would you look at that? There's a big panel that fits right here, right? So this is a big panel, and there's just a couple more. Oh, my friends, we are getting closer to finishing up the top of the saucer section. So, on the way out the door, let's go ahead and say this. Coming up, we have stages 49 and 50 coming up next week. And then once we finish up 49 and 50, it's time to do some mods. And the very first mod that we're going to be doing is going to be, the decks 1 and 2 and main bridge mod. So we will talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about doing all the windows for that, taking apart all of our pieces and getting ready to go for that, as we're going to be using the microcrystal clear for the windows there. Now, after that, it's going to be talking about the power mod, and that's going to be a fairly quick episode, as I'm going to be doing a quick demonstration and a diagram of the parts that we're going to be using for that. And then after that, we will have all of the parts for our nacelles, and we were going to finish up the starboard side nacelle mod, and then we'll move on to build. So that gives me a little bit of time to go ahead and catch up and get a couple extra packages in here. So that's what I got for you today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, and I think that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. Like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world wherever you happen to be. And just remember, my friends, to always live long and prosper.